So the DNC ends. What do?
Okay, I'm done with this party. I'm finally going to just say the truth. I'm just going to say it. It's crystallized for me now that I've gone to the DNC. It's like seeing behind the curtain, kind of. Even though I've been working in Democratic politics for a long time, it's like I really saw behind the curtain. And I saw what they were about with this coronation of Kamala Harris. And I posted this video and I did not expect, I thought maybe like a couple hundred people might see it. And when I woke up the next day, it had millions of views.
Now, it's time for some sanity. It's the Michele Tafoya podcast.
So that is Evan Barker. She is a woman who is a lifelong Democrat, the mother of a 2-year-old toddler, and someone who went to the Democrat National Convention and had a revelation. I mean, a big time revelation. Her story is remarkable. It's why she went viral on TikTok. She's been all over the place, but we have her for a very interesting and more intimate conversation about how she came to this realization that she's going to tell you about. Really, really interesting young woman, and her story is compelling to say the least. Stay tuned. Meet Evan Barker. You might be kind of mind blown. I know so many people who have trouble sleeping, whether it's the stress of current events, it's the stress of their life, the stress of inflation, whatever it is, we all have trouble sleeping. I'm included in that. But let me tell you what I found to help me sleep better. And I'm telling you, this stuff works for me. It's not a drug. It's not a prescription. It's a cream. And I put it on at bedtime and it's simple. And let me tell you something. I was a total skeptic, but after trying it once, I was amazed that it really works. I sleep so much better. The company is Sleep Cream. They use all natural CBD combined with the finest essential oils. They have different scents that I really like, the rose in particular. So I just put it on before turning in for the evening. I usually put it on the bottoms of my feet or the insides of my forearms, and that's what works best for me. And then within minutes, I feel relaxed and my body is allowed to do what it's supposed to do, which is go to sleep. You can find them at sleepcream.com, sleepcreme.com. Just try Sleep Cream for a couple nights. See if it works for you as well as it does for me. And if you don't experience better sleep, Sleep Cream will refund your purchase, guaranteed. You don't even have to return anything. Go to sleepcream.com. That's sleepcream.com with cream spelled CREME.com. And for the next few weeks, use the code GAMEDAY at checkout to save $20 off your first order. That's GAMEDAY at checkout. All one word, Game Day, for $20 in savings. Are you ready for the best sleep ever? Sleep, CREME.com. Evan Barker, it's really good to meet you in person. And I was taken with your story the instant I read it, because it takes some guts to do what you did and to say, you know what? I saw some stuff in the Democrat Party at the convention and other places that I'm just not comfortable with. But I want to just dig deep, let people know who you are first. You're young, clearly, but you call yourself a lifelong Democrat.
Right.
What does that mean? Did you grow up with Democrat parents, or how did you establish that identity?
Yeah, I am young, but I think I look a little bit younger, maybe.
Good for you, Evan. Hang on tight, girl.
I have a 2-year-old. So, but
wow.
Yeah. So I'm actually like in my mid-30s, but
okay, you do look young.
Yes, it's good. I'll take it. So
you will, yes.
Yes. So I actually hail originally from the Kansas City, Missouri area. Grew up actually on both sides of the state line, Kansas and Missouri. And I have grown up in a union family. My grandpa was pretty high up in the laborers union, actually. And my family, my mom was a Democrat. My dad was a Democrat. He was younger. And my dad is deceased. I have a feeling if my dad were around now, he'd probably be voting for Donald Trump. But So yeah, I grew up in a predominantly Democratic family. And, I've always been interested in politics. When I was in kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher called my mom because she asked our class who was running for president. And I raised my hand, and most people gave like the normal answers. This was like in 1996, so people were saying Bill Clinton. I raised my hand after they said the main two candidates, and I said Ross Perot. And she thought that was, pretty strange that a kindergartner was like that in tune. So, I just always kind of grew up interested. Something unique about me is that I was born with a rare lung disease. It's genetic, similar to cystic fibrosis. Mm-hmm. It's called primary ciliary dyskinesia. And so I was sick throughout my childhood. I didn't get diagnosed with my disease until I was around 15 years old because it was so rare. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't figure it out. And part of what activated me, got me involved in politics in high school when I became an alternate delegate for Hillary Clinton at age 17, because I was going to be 18 by election day, was having a rare disease. And at that time, prior to the ACA, insurance companies were allowed to deny people health insurance based on their pre-existing conditions. So when I was a child, my parents actually dealt with this quite a bit. My dad was a small business owner. It was just him working for himself. And, my parents were divorced. So I lived with my mom primarily. And she didn't, I'm the first person in her family to go to college. And so, she struggled financially, and so did my dad. And there were times where I had to go on high risk insurance pools, and it was a major strain on my family's finances. Wow. And so I became activated in 2008 by Hillary Clinton and then Obama because they talked about healthcare and wanting to change things for people like me.
I could see that being a major motivator for you. No question about it. And so let's get back to you being 17 and going to be 18, and you were an alternate delegate for Hillary Clinton. That's really young to be doing that, but it's really inspiring actually to know that young people are that interested, because I think people feel like so many people are disengaged these days. So what happened recently then? I mean, you're both feet in.
I know. I should be their natural constituency, right? Look at my background.
Yes, exactly. You've got the guitar and the drums. Tattoos. You've got the health issue, the tattoos. So what happened?
A lot of things happened. I don't feel like this party today, I don't really recognize it. Some of the story that I skipped over is, also when I was younger, I was pretty anti-war. I have a lot of military in my family. I completely support the military, but, I support the military only being activated, and going into these dangerous situations, right, when it's truly needed. Mm-hmm. And so seeing, Kamala Harris just wrap her arms around Dick Cheney and all of these other people associated with the George Bush foreign policy era, it completely it's almost like the parties are switching or something. Mm. And also just from working in Democratic politics, I also saw a major shift after 2020. And just, the focus on identity politics, and seeing that play out behind the scenes and campaigns that I worked on, and just the level of toxicness that I feel like, I mean, I'm not going to get into all these stories right now, but just
why not? We got time.
I mean, I experienced some very eye-opening things. I'll just put it that way.
You did a lot of work on campaigns. I mean, you were in this thing. Give us a sort of a chronological rundown. I know you interned for President Obama, or was that Senator Obama when he was a candidate?
It was President Obama, it was Senator Obama before his first election. So yes, I interned at the Kansas City office. I registered over 1,000 people to vote, mostly young people, talking to them about my genetic condition. And then I went to college. I took some time away from politics. And, I don't come from like a wealthy family at all. So a lot of the people that you'll meet in Democratic politics are the children of donors, or they have they come from like a very well-connected political family, usually on the East or the West Coast, right? And so I went to college. I had to take out Pell Grants. I had to take out loans, and I had to actually work through college. So I couldn't just like go intern on some campaign and not make any money, right? So I took some time away from politics, and I got re-engaged afterwards, and then worked as a field organizer on Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2015 after I graduated. And I just did not feel connected to her campaign at all. At that point in time, it wasn't something that I could really articulate or intellectualize, but I actually went through some of my old text messages that I was sending to my mom at that time. And when I quit her campaign, my mom was a little disappointed in me, and she's like, well, I thought you wanted to get back into politics. I thought this is something you wanted to follow. But I was like, I just don't feel connected. There's something about this campaign. It doesn't feel like Obama's did. And so I got reconnected again after Trump won. I was devastated when he won in 2016. I was one of those people that was like laying in bed, nauseous, sick to my stomach, so upset, And
what did you think was going to happen? I mean, was it more that Hillary lost, or was it that he won that made you sick to your stomach?
It was more that he won. At that point in time, I was really bought into the idea that he was racist, sexist, that this was just like the worst possible thing that could ever happen to our country, And even though I come from a working class background, I still didn't quite understand the shift that was happening, and I still didn't completely understand, maybe because I had worked in Democratic politics and just kind of existed in those bubbles. But I got reactivated after he won. And then I started working in fundraising. And I sort of moved around the country, worked in New Jersey, worked in New York, worked in Kansas again, and started working my way up pretty quickly as a fundraiser. I was really good at it. I think a lot of people that work in fundraising don't realize that you have to be a hustler. You have to be almost like a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And I have that in my blood just naturally. I'm really, really, I'm just good at like following up with people. And so I, started raising millions of dollars, and that got the attention of some national organizations. And then I went on and started working in politics at a national level, and started traveling around the country, visiting different candidates in all these different states, and like Deanna, and I even visited AOC's office at one point, California, just different states all over the country. And then after the 2018 cycle, I started working for a fundraising firm based out of DC, and was able to do fundraising consulting for Democratic organizations and candidates. So usually I would have anywhere between like 5 to 7 clients at a time. Okay. And so, I've been doing this for a while. I was really good at it. I've never actually added up how much money I've raised for the Democratic Party, but probably $30 to $40 million at least.
Hey, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of health insurance, and you've had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars, you might want to take a look at Share Right. Healthcare done the right way. At Share Right, you're not just a number, you're part of a caring community. And forget about paying excessive premiums. With Share Right, you stand to save 30 to 50% compared to health insurance. Now think about what you could do with all those savings. But it's more than just savings. Share Right ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it. From routine checkups to unexpected emergencies, with Share Right, your health care is their top priority. Empower yourself today by taking control of your healthcare costs. Visit shareright.org/Tafoya to learn more and see how much you can save. Visit ShareRight, ShareRight.org/Tafoya. That's shareright.org/TAFOYA for healthcare done the right way. So this goes on and you continue fundraising. I'm assuming you got very much involved in the Biden candidacy for 2020. Is that accurate?
I didn't work directly for his campaign, no, but I was working. Yes, I was working for organizations that were supporting him I wasn't working directly for his campaign, but I was working with organizations that were making ads in key swing states and stuff like that. So I was doing that kind of fundraising.
So if you sobbed and were nauseous when Trump won in 2016, when Biden won in 2020, what was your gut reaction?
I mean, I was happy, honestly. Like I was, okay, we're going to turn a page. Not to take a line from her.
Yeah.
It's like,
turn the page.
Turning the page. But I just grew really disillusioned after 2020, just with the talks. I feel like this obsession with canceling people and just the left loves to just divide people up into identity groups. You know, we see that with these Zoom calls. I think, right?
So how were you seeing this? I mean, through what prism were you seeing this? Because many of us, you know, we do tend to live in our silos, in our bubbles. But I think there are ways that then things are brought to our attention that are maybe from outside our sphere. And clearly you were living in this bubble of Democrat fundraising and politics.
Right.
But you're seeing this stuff. Are you seeing it in your immediate surroundings where you're working, or are you seeing it sort of out in the national landscape more?
Seeing it in my immediate surroundings.
Really?
Just seeing people that are passed over for jobs simply based on the color of their skin. Seeing people that are shut down and aren't allowed to have an opinion on something just because of the color of their skin. Hearing people openly just say despicable things about people in meetings that I'm in based on the color of their skin.
Clearly you're white. Were you ever the victim of this?
Of course. Yes. Many times. And so just experiencing this, it started to feel like we were just drifting away from what the Democratic Party is supposed to be about. In my mind, that's like working people, like labor, And also at the same time, doing this fundraising work and seeing the people that interact with the candidates. I'm sure you know what call time is. I'm sure you've met politicians before who have complained to you about it. But just part of my job was leading candidates through this process called call time.
What is call time? I don't know what it is. So
call time is basically what both candidates, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're running as a Republican or if you're running as a Democrat, but 85% of a politician's time is spent just calling rich people and asking them for money, begging them for money. Okay. So I would see these politicians over and over and over again say one thing publicly. Okay. But then get on the phone with donors for hours and hours a day and listen to what they had to say and what they viewed as important, which seldom reflected the needs of the people that I knew back home in Missouri. Because most of these people are like, very, very wealthy people from bubbles like San Francisco or Brooklyn or, New York, right? Those are the people that are supporting the Democratic Party. And so seeing that coupled with like this obsession with identity politics, social justice warrior stuff, and then seeing Democrats embrace war to Ukraine. I was one of the only people, like when that happened at the place that I worked and just like, that I knew in Democratic politics that was saying like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we sending so much money to this country so far away from us? Yes, Ukraine, exactly. Like, this doesn't make any sense, you know? And then the withdrawal from Afghanistan, I thought was completely sloppy. You know, I have family. This is personal, and I don't want to like get too much into the story, but somebody very close to me, my family, died active duty in the military.
I'm sorry.
And thank you. And so I just felt like there was just sort of like this carelessness, you know, on the left, and just all of this coupled together.
That's a really interesting word you just used, this carelessness. It kind of this sort of rogue scattershot approach to stuff. Let's get everyone out of Afghanistan, even though we're not really planning for it. And then let's just funnel a bunch of money over to Ukraine, and no one has to know how much or where it's going. Carelessness is a really interesting word. And you're seeing all this. So all this sounds like it's like building up for you.
Yeah, it was sort of like slowly and then suddenly.
Yeah,
and
like
I actually, right. And I had a little bit of hope, like, obviously Joe Biden needed to drop out. You know, I mean, if the Democratic Party had actually, and this is the other thing about the Democratic Party that I really don't like, is that there's so much groupthink, and they're allergic to just hashing out issues. Like, everything is so process oriented, if that makes sense, and people are just expected to fall in line. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's more room for open discussion and dissent within the Republican Party. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just from an outside point of view. Yeah. Because I don't think somebody like Donald Trump, like, he is the anti-establishment candidate, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think he would have been allowed to be the nominee in the Republican Party if they operated the same way that the Democratic Party does.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's really interesting.
And
that's a good observation, actually. That's a really good observation, because he so doesn't fit the conventional Republican stereotypes that if it was really strict and everyone was falling in line, somehow they would have figured out a way to get him out.
Exactly. And the Democrats would never so our version of that is Bernie Sanders, right? They never let him get any, I mean, obviously him and Donald Trump have very different views. There might be some horseshoe overlap. I don't know, you know, but they never let him get anywhere near becoming the nominee. They blocked him each time, right? I was a little hopeful after Joe Biden dropped out that maybe I would go to the convention, because I had actually never been to a convention before. I was an alternate delegate for Hillary at the state level. Should make that clear. Right. But I had never gone, and I always wanted to go to a convention. I was hopeful, truly, that maybe I would go and there would be a contested or open convention, and truly the best person would emerge from that process. Just like I think JFK was the last Democratic nominee to emerge from an open convention process. And so I was like, maybe the Democrats, like, this is a chance for them to sort of like figure out what their message is, you know, and truly let the best person emerge. And this could be a really exciting moment for them. And instead, he drops out, he endorses her. Everyone immediately falls in line, even like squad members, right? I mean, what's the point of the squad if you can't even, you know, like, it's mind-blowing to me. And when I get there, I just feel like I'm inside of this giant corporate infomercial, and everybody has drank the Kool-Aid. Everybody's high, you know, together. It really felt that way. I felt like everyone was an MSNBC reporter or something. They were just spouting the same jargon, and it was just bizarre. And even progressives that I would speak to, people that I thought would also be like, this is kind of strange, just were going along with it, and we're really excited, and we're like deluding themselves that somehow Kamala Harris was going to represent them, but really she didn't represent anything. She was just this empty vessel for anybody to sort of project their feelings onto. And then I find out that Maureen Powell Jobs, I don't know if you saw the article in the New York Times a few weeks ago, but apparently behind the scenes is, you know, as after, you know, before Biden had actually dropped out, she had like one of her top advisors circulating a polling memo to everybody. She has this lifelong friendship with Kamala Harris, okay, that shows that he can't win. So clearly, like, this is a candidate that was just completely chosen by the donors, not by the people.
Yeah.
And everything about it oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. So you're there in this infomercial. I love that description at the DNC, and it's all the joy and the was just everywhere. But you were noticing that it just didn't feel authentic.
Didn't feel authentic. There was no substance. She hadn't even posted a platform, which is something in politics. A lot of consultants will actually advise Democratic candidates when they're first running to not post any issues on their website. And then they do that on purpose, strategically, so that they can just fundraise and that they don't really have to take a side, and that's what it felt like, exactly what was happening. And I thought about my grandmother. I've talked about my grandmother a lot the last few months, but my grandmother is somebody who voted for Barack Obama. She grew up completely working class, right? So did my mom. And she has really, really struggled the last few years. And so has my mother. My grandmother's in her 80s. My mother's in her 60s. My mom lost her job when the pandemic happened and hasn't really been able to find a very good job since then. It's been really, really hard for her. And they're living on their Social Security checks. That's what they live on. And they are just astonished. Like, I've had to help them with groceries and stuff like that because they just it's just not enough money to pay rent with the rising cost of rent, the rising cost at the grocery store, the inflation that's killing everyone. And I'm at the DNC and I'm thinking about them and I'm looking at all these donors and these donor suites with their Louis Vuitton bags and they're talking about joy and they're talking about hope and Brat Summer, and just like this isn't computing, It felt incredibly tone deaf.
Yeah, that's another great word for it, and many people are seeing that. So you're starting to see through this. You're rejecting the idea that you too should just fall in line,
Right.
Which again, I think that's courageous. Not everyone did that. Was there anyone that you found common ground with that was seeing what you were seeing, or did you feel pretty alone?
I felt completely alone.
Wow.
No.
So the DNC ends. What do?
I go home. Excited to see my son. It was my first trip away from him. And I just sort of processed for a few days. And I see RFK drop out of the race. I see his speech. And I talked to some of my friends where I live here now. I've been living in the Bay Area for the last couple of years. It's a very liberal place, if you didn't know.
Yes, I know. I went to Berkeley and lived in Northern California for quite some time. Yes, go ahead.
Came back and they asked me how it was. And I just decided to give them the honest truth that I didn't like it. And I told them all the things I just told you. And they basically told me I tried to explain my family and how they're struggling and how, that I didn't feel like they would resonate with this new Democratic Party, this direction they were going in. And basically I got told that I was speaking from a place of privilege and because of the color of my skin. And so I was really angry. It was just sort of like it all sort of came to a head. And I got on TikTok and I had 60 TikTok followers. Literally, that's it. And I was like, okay, I'm done with this party. I'm finally going to just say the truth. I'm just going to say it. It's crystallized for me now that I've gone to the DNC. It's like seeing behind the curtain, kind of. Even though I'd been working in Democratic politics for a long time, it's like I really saw behind the curtain. And I saw what they were about with this coronation of Kamala Harris. And I posted this video and I did not expect, I thought maybe like a couple hundred people might see it. And when I woke up the next day, it had millions of views. So, and I think it was because I struck a nerve. There was a lot more people than I thought who felt like me.
What did that feel like to know that?
It's jarring to go viral. It's like a very scary thing to go viral, but to see all of the support that I got too at the same time, I felt less lonely. I was like, these people just weren't at the DNC, which makes sense. Why would they be there? And then ever since then, I've just been telling people the truth, and I wrote an op-ed. It's probably what got your attention, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I decided to basically clarify my thoughts even more in this op-ed. And, I've just been talking to anyone who will listen because I'm not okay with, because I'm brave.
And you want people to know what you see, and I think that's the sign of someone brave. Who it's certainly not popular within your group of liberal friends, but you just decided to hell with it. I got to say what I've got to say. So now you've got this binary choice, right? And RFK Jr., as you mentioned, dropped out and endorsed Trump, and you've got this binary choice. And you who have been a lifelong Democrat, are you willing to say how you're prepared to vote?
Not yet. I know that I'm not voting for Kamala Harris.
Okay.
That is 100%. I'm not voting for her.
Okay.
But not yet. I'm still looking at things and thinking, and I'm not ready yet to.
And 100%.
I'm not saying I won't.
But you're 100% certain that you won't vote for Kamala Harris.
No, I'm 100% not voting for her.
And that's a strong statement by someone who's a lifelong Democrat. And can you sort of condense it down to maybe 2 or 3 reasons why you would just absolutely not vote for her?
Sure. Goldman Sachs, Dick Cheney, and just no substance.
Yeah. What'd you think of her choice of Tim Walz?
Okay, 2 different ways to look at it. As a political operative, if I were advising her, I would have told her not to pick him, but I also probably have a better understanding of the Rust Belt in the middle of the country and those people than she does, or anyone near her on her team. I'm telling you, so many people in the Democratic Party are from California or New York. They don't get it. Minnesota culturally is very different than Pennsylvania. And so I would have advised her to pick Josh Shapiro. Absolutely. Duh.
Yeah.
And so when she picked Tim Walz, it was just, okay, like you pick somebody that makes you feel secure, I guess. Like maybe she felt insecure by Josh Shapiro because, disagree with him and his politics or not, he's clearly very talented and probably
it makes some people wonder, Evan, if he didn't say, I'm going to sit this one out, Kamala. I appreciate the interest, but I've got a future in this, and running as your running mate would eliminate that future for me.
Potentially. I hadn't thought about that. That's completely possible. But I think she kind of, it's either like, she just really, are they so arrogant that they think they just have Pennsylvania in the bag, that they don't need that, because I feel like culturally, Pennsylvania and Ohio are a lot more similar.
Listen, I live in Minnesota now, so I'm from California, and now I live in Minnesota. So I can tell you firsthand, this is culturally a very different place, much to the chagrin of a lot of people.
They don't understand it. They don't get it at all.
It's been so strange to watch. I've lived here for 30 years now, and it's been just like, I can't really say it's whiplash. You said something earlier. It happened slowly, then all at once. That's kind of how it feels. I mean, look, this state has elected Jesse the Body Ventura and Al Franken and others to higher office, but we seem to have lost sense. And I feel as though abortion is the single most important issue to so many female voters here, and it's and I'm a pro-choice woman, but I don't, it's not even close.
There's other issues too.
There are other issues.
Exactly. Like being able to afford to feed yourself.
Being able to afford to feed yourself, being safe in your neighborhoods. Right. So like I said, I admire your courage. Before we let you go, what has been the worst part of sort of presenting this new side of yourself, this new opinion? What's been the downfall, if anything?
Lost a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I guess they weren't ever really friends, but I've lost people that I've known 10 plus years. I've lost people that were at my baby shower. They don't speak to me anymore. So that's been hard.
You're not as young as I thought you were. You're in your 30s, but I'm still older than you. And I will tell you this because it matters to me that you hear this. Those friends obviously didn't share your values, and it's all about values, and you will make plenty of new friends, ones that support your values. So I know how hard that must be, but you have the stature now to stand before your 2-year-old and say, I was thinking of you, and I was thinking of your grandma and your great grandma when I made this decision. I was thinking about the country. And I that's something you can be really proud of.
Thank you.
How you doing? You doing okay?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm doing.
I mean, there are a lot of people who love listening to your story.
Yeah, and the really good thing is that I do have like a really good family support because all of my family switched to Trump now.
It's fascinating.
They're so happy, So it's like I've lots of friends, but I've got great family support, people that really, you know what I mean? So, and then I do still have some close friends, even if they disagree with me, luckily. There's been a few people that are like, we disagree, but that's okay. I still love you because I know you,
See, that's what a friend does. That's what a real friend does. So good for you. Right. I'm happy to hear that you have them, and you have that precious 2-year-old. And that's golden. I want to thank you so much, not just for coming on this podcast, but just for being able to reveal yourself at such a raw level and talk about the things that you saw and that made a difference in your life. And I'm so glad I got to meet you and talk to you and share your story with my listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
She is Evan Barker, and she did what I always encourage people to do, and that is to be brave and do good. She did both of those things. She continues to do both of those things, and we appreciate having her on. And we will see you next time.